We're missing a guy. Well, guess we're starting without that guy. Hope everybody is having a
There he
great
is.
day. There he is. Look, he's alive. Go
Yeah.
ahead, go ahead. No, this is your
Yeah,
show.
you wish. You wish you could start without me. Unbelievable. This guy was about to start without me. No, my computer frizzed out there for a second. Yeah, we are back. We are live. We are in it, and we are getting ready for what we call the fastest 90 seconds. I got it this time, fellas. The fastest 90 seconds in Major League Baseball. And this week, things have changed a bit because we had the trade deadline, and teams have started to rise to the top, and some teams have started to fall, as it naturally happens. And we'll start with the AL East because the AL East is a mess right now. The Yankees made major moves. None seem to be helping. They continue to lose games while the Red Sox continue to win. The Blue Jays lead the AL East by 4 games. The American League Central, I'm telling you, fellas, it's getting to be a little bit of a tighter race than we expected. This is what the Guardians do, man. They hang around, and then they just start chopping wood. You know, they're not cutting down trees, but they're just chopping wood, and they're waiting. They're waiting. And the Tigers are having had a little bit of a backslide there for a minute. They're starting to play a little better, starting to pitch the ball better. One of my buddies said, you know, everything looks great if Jack Flaherty would stop throwing meatballs. And I said, yeah, Jackson would love to not see Miles Michaelis throw every 5 days, but we can't all have what we want. Moving on to the American League West, where the Astros still cling to a 1.5 game lead. However, they're really injured, and they just went and got a bunch of pieces. Oh, we lost Ryan. This is a good technical night for us starting off. Jackson seems to be the only one who has things straightened out, which is crazy. The Astros a game and a half up on the Mariners, but the Mariners are streaking. They're 7-3 in their last 10, a game and a half back. The Astros reinforced their infield with Isaac Paredes going down for the rest of the year, more than likely. I think I saw he got a PRP injection, so we'll see if that allows the muscle to heal a little faster. But they got Carlos Correa. They got Ramon Urias. They added some pieces. They added some bats. Added some Crawford box merchants, as we like to say. And the Rangers have slowed down a bit, but they're still only 4.5 games out of that division. Moving on to the National League East, where the Mets have just become the Mets. And I hate to say that because the Mets have an incredibly talented roster. They have some pieces that they just went and got. They gave some pieces away. Speaking of, Drew Gilbert got called up to the big leagues today by the Giants after just getting traded to the Giants by the Mets. But the Phillies still have a 2.5 game lead, took 2 of 3 from the Orioles. The Marlins, while they were streaking, have now fallen 2 games below 500. And the Nationals looking to get off a skid tonight. National League Central, Brewers, 4-game lead now on the Cubbies. The Cubs also took 2 of 3 from the Orioles, starting to play better baseball, starting to pitch better, but they cannot hit the baseball right now. This is the time of year where Chicago should become a little bit more hittable. They seem to hit right through the wind early in the season and seem to be struggling right now, so maybe they need the blustery weather of September to come sooner than we realize. Moving on to the National League West and finishing off the fastest 90 seconds in Major League Baseball, the Dodgers clinging to a 2-game lead in the NL West. The Padres 8-2 in their last 10. AJ Preller absolutely went off at the trade deadline. We talked about it on the podcast this week. Prospects don't win you championships. Players win you championships. And every single year, AJ Preller seems to have a lot of prospects left to trade. So he either knows how to restock his system or he's just got more than we realize. The Diamondbacks, Giants going the other direction. And the Rockies, of course, 30-84. We have now reached our counter, trying to get to negative 420 run differential. And I believe we sit somewhere around 105 runs left with about 50 games left to play, a little bit less. Hoping we can see that mark reached because, would be hilarious. And there we go. That's your recap on Major League Baseball this week. Boys, we got a good live stream tonight. I'm really excited for the stuff we're going to talk about.
I'm impressed. You know, me having some technical issues was perfect because you were able to get through it in 90 seconds.
Yeah, nobody jumped in.
Timing you on that. We're gonna have to start.
Yeah, we do.
I did get a timer up.
I need to get that music. What was it? What's the music they do for the fastest 60 seconds in football? on Monday Night Football with Chris
Yeah, I
Berman.
know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we got to get that background music and just have that playing for me while I'm going through that. We also should get some music while we make people sit and wait for 7 minutes. How about that, fellas?
Got to be Jeopardy.
I have no clue what I'm doing.
In the words of Jackson Scudder, lock in.
Yeah, seriously, need to lock in. But like I said, good live show today. We're gonna start with a little bit of trade deadline recap, and we're not gonna go through a bunch of moves because that's not really worth talking about. The time has passed. We did it on the podcast. If you want to go hear about that, go listen to this past week's episode. We dropped it on Tuesday. You can go listen to it on Apple, on Spotify. Go watch it on YouTube if you want to look at these ugly mugs. But I do want to talk about a couple of the more high-profile players that got moved. Specifically, Josh Naylor and Eugenio Suarez. Those were big moves and big pieces that went to Seattle. I want to talk about Carlos Correa making his way to Houston. And I want to talk about the three-headed monster that made its way to New York. We can obviously bring some others into the fold of the conversation, but let's start with the three-headed monster in New York. You got Camilo Doval, David Bednar, and Jake Bird?
Yeah,
Jake Bird?
Bird.
Yeah, I got the first name right. I don't know why I want to say Greg Bird. That is not right. But I
Former
want to talk.
Yankee.
Yeah,
Former Yankee.
I know. That's why I keep wanting to say it.
Stud.
But let's talk about it because they were supposed to join Luke Weaver and Devin Williams. Now you take those five guys and you give me those five guys and you tell me that I gotta use three of them every other night. Hopefully, maybe four of them. Like, you should be rattling off wins because you should really only need a 1 or 2 run lead every night, which is what their offense and their starters gave them in Miami 3 straight nights, and they won one of them. What's going on in New York, fellas? Somebody give me something.
Truthfully, I think there's a very simple thing going on in New York, and it's what I like to call the end of the dog days of summer. There's a lot going on right now. I think that you bring in new arms to any team, you bring in new faces. There's a period of transition, but I think bigger than anything, at the current moment, the Yankees are playing up and down baseball compared to what we expect from them offensively and in the rotation and in the bullpen across the board. I think that somebody said it best, and it's really fun for me, is that regardless of what happens with the guys grabbed over the trade deadline in Bednar and Bird, you're going to have Devin Williams more than likely leave New York after this season and look just like you thought he was going to look in New York, right? So At the current moment, I think there's a level of, or there's a deep breath that needs to be taken for Yankees fans with the understanding that this will work. Now, I would like to throw out, and I don't say this negatively, I'm a big fan of Jake Bird's stuff. Would also say, I think there is a level to which the expectation that was put on Bird of what he was going to be for the Yankees was probably a lot higher than it should have been. You're talking about one of the better sweepers in all of baseball. It's blatantly obvious when you get to watch him throw it. There's no question about it. At the same time, we are talking about a guy who had a career 4.76 ERA. He, across the board, has been a relatively mid-tier reliever. What made you think that those numbers were probably going to be better was the fact that you're getting him out of Colorado. My big issue with the whole situation with New York right now is he did get optioned almost immediately after giving up the walk-off home run to Jung. There has to be a willingness to breathe and understand that this is a new environment, and no matter who you are in any job in life, right, there has to be a level of patience. I think the Yankees are just fine. I think this is honestly, I think it's a non-conversation in my opinion. This is just how things shape up. It's baseball. This is a fickle game.
It can be a non-conversation. We could just move on to the next topic if you want.
The one guy I want to bring up with the Yankees is Williams. He's been almost – the numbers look so bad, but if you look at the advanced metrics, like he just pulled it up, he still has a 35% chase, 36% whiff, 30% strikeout. The ground ball rate's still decent. The hard hit rate's still decent. The expected batting average is just 215. You have to think law of averages at a point. Devin Williams is going to be better at some point. If you watch some of the games where he's given up leads, it's been bloop shots. Like at some point, that chase rate, that whiff rate that's on screen right now, that K rate, that expected batting average, is going to turn around and play in his favor. I'm
Well,
not
like-
saying I'm not saying he's going to be the stud that he was 3 years ago, but he's not. He's not a 5.5 year reliever at all. I
So-
think we all know that.
I tweeted about this the other night too because it was the hit from Rowdy Tellez, and Rowdy Tellez in Texas. I mean, obviously there's some solid numbers here in a much smaller sample size comparatively to some others, but it's a lot of a guy who chases a lot, a guy who whiffs a lot, and he throws him a good changeup with 2 strikes down in the zone. And Tellez, in an 8-pitch at bat, flicks his hands at a ball, finds enough of a barrel to dump one into center field, and all of a sudden, Devin Williams is the bad guy again. I feel like I've seen it over and over again. Early in the season, we talked about the fact that his pitch mix and his usage was totally messed up. But it definitely felt like they were pulling back on it and finding a better, more even mix, which they have. And I think the more even mix has helped, and we definitely haven't heard as much about it. But now that you've got 3 guys there, even 4 guys there that you expect to be able to close a game out that still aren't, it turns the conversation bigger and bigger. Also, it's New York. Things are always going to grow larger than they should. And then Bednar, of course, is the guy who was able to come through and get a save the other night in a 3-2 game. And that's also a roller coaster, right? I mean, we've seen that from Bednar in the last couple of years. His career has been a roller coaster. So that's the only struggle for me, is the guy who seemed like he was just on the right trajectory is continuously ending up in a bad luck spot, and the guy who's got the roller coaster of a year is starting to find it. Or not a year, but a roller coaster of the last 2 years and is starting to find it. I don't know. It's going to be up to Aaron Boone to figure out how he wants to fit those pieces together. That'll be the hardest part.
I also, to be completely honest with you, moving back to the conversation we had about Williams early in the year, I think he needs to be using the changeup more. I don't think this is like a 50-50 pitch mix split for him. The changeup is good enough to the fact where, one of his major issues, Jackson knows this, we've seen it before, the changeup, it's just like anybody's changeup, it's going to get hit when it's up. The problem is his changeup moves so much that he has to have the ability to find that small little window with a pitch that is dropping significantly more than everybody else's changeup, right? Turning him into Tommy Canley on the back end is really what the Yankees saw for him. The catch is Canley's throwing the changeup 65% of the time. That's not an exact number. If we go look, I figure I'm pretty close. But my point is what is so hard for Devin Williams to throw that way and pitch that way, even though it's the most effective way for him to use his arsenal, is the fact that his pitch drops so much, but also has a level of inconsistency to it at times, that it's hard for him to do that. But if he can take that pitch and then bust the fastball up on most hitters, it is going to slow them down so much that by the time he decides to throw the fastball, unless all they did was watch every changeup, which he will strike them out if they do, right? Williams is...
So 2020 through 2024, really 2020 through 2023, his changeup usage was anywhere from 53% to 58%. This year, his changeup's around 54%. It's still in that mix, but he had a third pitch for a time there where he mixed the slider in enough that it was thought about. And then it looked like he dropped that turned that into a little bit more of a cutter shape in 2023. And 20 through 23 were his best seasons. 24 still kept the cutter shape in there a bit. It's been completely abandoned this year. There is no shape of anything that moves glove side. And that also doesn't help, right? There's a sense of understanding for hitters that if I know the ball's only moving one direction, I can actually cut the plate in half. If you're telling me that lefties can cut the plate in half and look away, and you're telling me that righties can cut the plate in half and look in, they're going to be really successful. They're even going to get more hits on balls that they mishit because the swing is better and it's attacked in the right spot. And I think that's also the thing that's missing here. But there's obviously something the Yankees saw here that they felt it wasn't necessary or that it got hit too hard. But I'm okay giving up hits on a pitch that moves glove side as long as people know it exists, as long as people know it can actually come, because anything that can make a hitter think is an important pitch in your arsenal.
So for the sake of argument too, Jackson, what are you adding glove side for him? Are you putting the slider back in the arsenal, or are you putting a cutter in his arsenal?
Whatever's more comfortable. I mean, at that point,
Sure.
because his
like
fastball's
that
not
thought.
like extremely cut anyway. Like if I was in that position, I'm just saying, what's the most comfortable way you can supinate a baseball? That's what we're throwing. It can be a curveball, it can be a slider, it can be a sweeper, it can be a cutter. You need to supinate the baseball a little bit.
And for all those who have not yet met our boy Jackson Scudder over here, he does data analytics in pitching for ETSU at the current moment, which is why we're going to be the ones that ask him his thought process on what may be added or subtracted in an arsenal, because frankly, that's what he does. So just to give everybody the idea of why I would possibly have the gall to ask what you would add in this scenario.
It's the guy we would always want to know. So I want to keep moving, and I want to move on to the next guy, or the next pair of guys that I want to talk about. The Mariners picked up Josh Naylor and Eugenio Suarez. Of course, I'm a huge fan of both of those pickups, but I'm borderline a bigger fan of the Naylor pickup than I am of the Suarez pickup. Only because power was not something that I felt like this Mariners team was lacking comparatively to the rest of the league. Obviously, it could always get better. Suarez is a solid defender, a really good right-handed bat, but Naylor and what he brings culturally, Naylor and what he brings in the way he plays the game, and now with his legs as a base runner, which awesome. Like, I think this was one of the best pickups of the trade deadline across the board.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at a guy that size, you're thinking power, you're thinking not a lot of speed, and he's not a fast guy, but this is a guy he has 21 bags right now. He reminds me of a Arizona Diamondbacks Paul Goldschmidt on the base paths.
Wow.
If you remember, Goldie early in his career was 2020 guy and was not exactly flying on the base paths.
No.
I'll give you another one. Jason Worth. Very similar. Just a crafty base runner. Dude
And
used
Naylor-
to slide around first base to not hurt himself.
I remember that.
Another thing about Naylor, 14% strikeout rate, one of the better ones in baseball.
Yep.
He puts the ball in play a lot. He still has pop in the bat. Let's not pretend like this isn't a guy who can hit 20, 30 home runs. But he's putting the ball in play a lot and just giving the rest of the lineup a chance. I mean, you got guys like Kyle Riley, you got Suarez in there. You just need a guy who can put the ball in play a lot. Naylor's doing that, and Naylor's stealing bases. I mean, I think it's been an awesome pickup so far.
I
This
think.
is
Go ahead.
this is one of my favorite situations in all of baseball right now, and it's very simple for me. You know, getting to watch him really grow up in Cleveland with the Guardians in a mid-market team, not as many people getting to see him play baseball. And it's going to go into what I know Flax is going to say, and I won't steal his line about the way he plays baseball, but it's a hard-nosed style of baseball every night, and the energy of which he brings, but also the opposite side of it, which is a level of calm and centeredness that people don't see from him. Josh Naylor is one of the most even-keeled guys you will ever watch, but when the time is right, similar to when an announcer calls the perfect type of home run, the energy explodes out of him, and it gives the spark plug and the jolt to the rest of the team. Again, to Jackson's point, we're talking about a guy who career as a pop first guy has a 328 on base percentage and a 445 slug. He can absolutely put up 20 plus home runs on a consistent basis when healthy, but more than anything, as a pop first guy, ball is in play. His right now, Baseball Reference's version of WOBA, our WOBA on the season is 363. This is him having the best all-around season of his career, and it's not just because of the long ball. Love what Naylor brings to the table, and I think this is potentially going to be, by the end of the year, the best acquisition that we saw for Seattle at the deadline.
Yeah, I think he's a top 5% player in on-base percentage. We talked about this in the offseason. We said, what do the Mariners need to do to win more baseball games? The Mariners need guys on base and guys in scoring position. They just went and got a guy who plays pretty good defense, who gets on base, and lo and behold, gets himself in scoring position. Like, this is why I love the pickup, is because it may not have been the flashiest move. It got done earlier than the trade deadline happened, but above all other things, it was a move that was made specifically for what they needed on their roster. There were a couple of different guys they could have gone and gotten in this same realm. They went and got a guy who maybe doesn't bang the ball out of the yard at the same rate as some of those other first basemen, but getting on base.
But he kind of does.
No, I mean, he can, but he's got 14 bond this year, right? Like Not quite yet this year a 20 home run guy. He can be. I'm not saying he can't be. But this year, he has been a get on base, get himself over, score runs type of guy. And he doesn't strike out a lot, and he walks a ton, and it's such a tough at bat. He doesn't swing out of the zone. Like, watching him take at bats forces pitchers to be in the zone. You know what happens when pitchers get forced to be in the zone to one hitter? They feel the need to be in the zone to the next hitter. They feel the need to be more in the zone to everyone because it gives a feeling to the pitcher like, oh, my stuff's not chase worthy today. I gotta get them to swing and get themselves out. You know what happens when you do that? You get hit around the ballpark. You give a lot more hittable pitches, especially when guys are purposefully leaving strikes that are on the edge because it's not the pitch they want to hit. You know what it does? Forces the ball more on the plate, not more off the plate. That's what I love about the at-bats he takes and why I think he's so impactful.
I think
The fact that you didn't say piss and vinegar once hurts me.
I was about to bring up the fact that him and Randy on the same team is electric.
Yeah, it is.
They're the type of guys where Kyle Riley's going to hit a home run, and those two guys are going to let you know about it.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Kyle Riley won't let you know, but Kyle Riley will hit a home run, and Naylor and Randy are going to let you know that Kyle Riley hit a home run off.
Cal Raleigh will lay the bat down. He'll take his jog, and Naylor will be yelling at the pitcher from the dugout or from the field.
I think another good thing to bring up about Josh Naylor, and for anybody who didn't get to see the interview, I know that it's somewhere within the realm of our Twitter. But Naylor sat down and talked to the media about his preparation before games and his thought processes, and it was an excellent display of who he is as a professional and in the world of baseball. He talked about the fact that he doesn't generally love BP on the field. He likes to get there early, hit with a small group behind the scenes with a hitting coach, listen to how other guys are prepping for games, listen to the minute changes they're making. He's very big on tinkering with the different things that he's doing in order to find out if somebody else is doing something that's making them successful that could help him. And I absolutely love the thought process, but it also brings that veteran presence of a guy who's been in the league. I believe he is sitting at just over 5 years of service time. This is the type of guy you go get also who has multiple years of playoff experience with the Guardians to really help your team make a push down the stretch. Again, this may be the best acquisition they make. I think Eugenio Suarez is worth talking about, of course, as the guy that they gave up in reality the most for here. What was so great about that acquisition, whether people love it or not, is, he brings more pop. Yeah, he's going to play a good enough third base to help them out. However, he's been there. He's played in Seattle, right? He knows what he came into, what he walked into. That presence that can step in immediately and be calm, cool, collected, and ready for the environment that you've put him in is going to be massive for the Mariners with the at-bats that he's going to take and with the way he's going to act in that dugout.
So the other guy I want to talk about as a part of the fire sale was Carlos Correa getting moved back to Houston. First of all, if you like villains in sports, Carlos Correa is your guy, and I think he's back where he belongs. I saw somebody the other day say it's going to be so awesome when Alex Bregman opts out and comes back to Houston next year, which isn't going to happen, but would be phenomenal. Just get the band back together. What I think is incredible is that the Astros are even in the position that they're in. I think at one point a couple weeks ago they had 18 guys on the IL at once. It's ridiculous. And a lot of those guys are like big-time guys, right? McCullers went back on the IL. Arrighetti went back on the IL. Now, Arrighetti came back and threw the other night. But, that's a lot of guys to be missing all at once. You go get a guy like Correa, and the first thing he did when he got there was he sat down and set a hitters meeting for everyone. And then he goes and has this hitters meeting with everybody and says, this is how we're going to approach hitting for the rest of the year. And we're going to start getting even better. And they've been playing pretty good baseball since he got back there. I love this pickup for the Astros. I think this is what they needed. I mean, Dana Brown and some of the other guys in that front office, they always seem to make very good decisions at the deadline. They're generally splash moves. I thought they were really heavy in on Dylan Cease, and that was going to be their splash move. But bringing Correa back, didn't see that one coming, and that's a nice size I think that's a pretty good size contract for them to take on. No,
he fits right in there with them. He's a Houston guy. I know I saw a lot of Minnesota fans just having such a sour taste in their mouth about the Correa era. He's always been an Astro to me, and I think he's going to do very well there. I think that's just a great fit for them. They've done a great job this year about filling holes with guys that you're not expecting.
Yep.
I think Correa's going to come in there, take some at bats that they need, and yeah, I like it.
Yeah, so for what it's worth, I think the actual contract that he signed with Minnesota is the bigger question of how this was going to shake out. Minnesota this year will retain towards the luxury tax 24 million plus some change, and then they'll retain 10 million the following 3 years, 26, 27, and 28. The contract is still not small, right? First off, there's 4 vesting options for Correa after the end of the contract in 2028. So the Astros will be taking on 21, 21, and 21. Again, there's some change on top of those numbers over the next 3.
Are those options that have already vested, like he's going to get that money, or is they have to pick those? He's got to get to a certain point to get those.
How about I read through the vest because I
Yeah.
did not get to that point yet,
Go for
and then
it.
I will report back to you.
That's on me.
This is where you keep talking because I'm still
Yeah.
reading through the vest.
Oh! I thought you were going to read it out loud to us. I thought you were going to read us.
No,
the story.
these
Okay.
these are not simple vests.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I was going to bring up Correa's baseball savant page because when you look at it, it doesn't shout to you like an Aaron Judge page or a Shohei Ohtani page. But the expected batting average being a full 20 points higher than his actual average tells me he's at least putting the ball in play the right way. He's hitting the ball hard consistently. He swings the bat hard consistently. He doesn't strike out a lot. He doesn't swing and miss a lot. But I think a lot of these things are like the tangible pieces that make you wonder where he's going to fit. The intangibles is you can put him at third base and he's going to make a really nice play and make it look like he's been playing third base in the big leagues for 10 years. The intangibles here is that he's going to do what I said. He's going to set a hitters meeting and he's going to get everybody on the same page. He's going to get to the ballpark and go about his business the right way. Those types of things that are really hard to find in players. And when you have such turnover within your team because of injury, keeping those guys around that are vocal leaders, not that a guy like Jose Altuve is not that some of these other guys aren't, but when you look around at that locker room, it's very, very different than it was at the start of the season. It's very different than it was 2 years ago and even last year. Yordan Alvarez is still dealing with his hand issue. There's so many pieces here where you got to get to young guys at this point in the year, in the dog days of summer, a Cam Smith, and say, hey, man, we're not winning any awards this year. Doesn't matter. Take every at-bat as an individual at-bat. Find a way to make it your best at-bat of the season every time you get up there, and do that to help this team win. Don't worry about everything else. Go play a really good right field. Just show up to the ballpark every day and do things the right way. It will all fall into place. And you can stand there as a guy like a Carlos Correa and say, I'm telling you because I know. I'm telling you because I've done it. I'm telling you because there have been points in my career where things didn't pan out. I'm telling you because I was a really young guy who came in and had to take on the spotlight right out of the gate and show out and was the person they were leaning on with a young team to get to that next level and try and win a World Series. That's why I like Carlos Correa coming in, right? He was the starting point, was the starting point between him, Springer, and Altuve of getting this whole dynasty started. Like, say what you will about everything within the Astros' history as an organization. This latest dynasty, when it started because of those guys. Bringing him back re-energizes that idea for the young guys that they've got now.
So before I go into his vest, the 4 years of vest here, there was a ton of reports too that the Astros were trying to make this reunion happen in the offseason as well, right?
Yeah.
This is, again, kudos to Dana Brown and his staff. They never really were off the pulse of Correa in some way, shape, or form, if this is something that got talked about throughout the offseason. So the vesting options, they have one simple way to vest, and they have a couple other ways to vest. Again, just to break down the rest of his contract, Houston will be paying $6.8 million plus some change of that contract in 2025. They will then take majority of the rest of the contract for the next 3 years, $21 million, $21 million, $21 million from 26 to 28. Now, The vesting options, nice and interesting. The biggest issue with Correa when he was signing his free agent contract was health, right? He had 2 different deals that fell through due to what his medicals came back as. If I remember correctly, it was the Giants and the Mets. Might be wrong. Somebody can correct me. However,
Yeah, that was a weird situation.
the 2029 option would vest at $25 million if he reaches 575 plate appearances in the previous season, so 2028, or, and this will be a theme throughout the rest of it, so I don't have to read through it again, he could do 4 other different things to have his option vest: top 5 in MVP the previous season, a Silver Slugger the previous season, LCS MVP, World Series MVP. All of those could make that option vest. It's going to be exactly the same, but we're scaling down the plate appearances for the next 3 seasons. 2030 could vest on 550 plate appearances the previous season. 2031 could vest at 525 plate appearances the previous season. And 2032 could vest with 502 plate appearances the previous season. All of those do repeat the top 5 MVP, Silver Slugger, LCS MVP, or World Series MVP. What an interesting contract, because let's remember who he signed this contract with, which is what I find even crazier. It shows you how derailed the Minnesota Twins plans were, and something we will be talking about sooner than later.
Yeah, no, I mean that was the segue I wanted. You nailed it. I was just about to do that. So kudos to you. No, but I want to talk about the Minnesota Twins because I want to talk about what opening day looked like for this team. Opening day, you have your big 3 still there in the lineup: Royce Lewis, Byron Buxton, Carlos Correa. You have a really solid back end of your bullpen with Griffin Jacks and Johan Duran. You have a couple of really solid starters that should allow it. Yeah, you got Joe Ryan.
Pablo Lopez.
Yep, Pablo Lopez. Royce Lewis gets hurt within the first 2 days. Goes on the 10-day IL. Shocker. Byron Buxton, I don't want to say that he pulls back on some of the way he's played in the past because he's been really good this year, but it's not the same Byron Buxton. There is a touch of like, hey, I want to stay on the field. I'm not going to steal as many bases. Not going to run myself into the wall nearly as much.
Well, that's just because he's not on the field. It doesn't matter, right? To his credit, like he is doing a much better job of finding ways to make sure he's healthy for his team, because even slightly pulled back, he's one of the best players in baseball.
It's the right move when it's all said and done. But now you start to look at conversations that start coming out in the offseason. The Twins are, going to sell their team and all these different things that are out there. We talked about before, Rocco Baldelli was on the last year's contract. They signed him to an extension, which is crazy. They signed him to an extension very early on in the season. You start going through all these different pieces of this team. They made a trade early in the year for Cody Clemens. They were starting to play better baseball. And then as soon as it started to backslide just a hair, they're like, you know what? This isn't our year. Let's just start moving on with our team. Everybody. And the fire sale happened. And I couldn't. You want to talk about like even to the slightest degree where it made sense. And I told Ryan about this the other day. They traded away Louis Varland. Louis Varland is a Minnesota native, grew up in St. Paul, went to school in Minnesota. His entire family and extended family and in-laws go to every game. He's a hometown, homegrown guy. He had years of control, was a pretty solid bullpen arm, and they, without warning, trade him to the Blue Jays. Out of nowhere. Like the lack of communication, and I feel for the Twins fans, and so many people have said the biggest disappointment this year was the Orioles. I think the biggest disappointment now that we're through the trade deadline is the Minnesota Twins in 2025. Not only because they didn't play up to any level of expectation, because let's be serious here, they're only 6 games under 500. If they somehow play through the last back half of the year, finding some guys who can do what the other guys were doing, they won't stay 6 games under 500 likely, because you don't have a back end of your bullpen. You'll lose those games. You don't have as strong of an offense. You won't out-hit teams. You don't have nearly the same level of starting rotation as some other teams do in general. So getting yourself to stay in a ball game out of the gate is going to be difficult as it is. All these things culminate into like you're looking at the Twins and saying, when is this team going to be good again? Because their run from 2019 to 2023, where they won the Central 3 times in 5 years, seems like a very distant memory.
Yeah, I think they're absolutely been a bigger disappointment than the Orioles, especially with how they handled the deadline. If you
Yeah.
look at the Orioles traded away expiring contracts, and the Orioles are going to try to win next year. We all know that. They kept the core together. The Orioles are going to be ready to go. The Twins basically just gave up on the entire core. They gave up. They gave up on guys with control. They traded basically almost anybody with value away that they could, except for probably Joe Ryan and Byron Buxton. And like, I think I just don't love teams trading away everybody like that, especially when I think the core they had in place was a player or two away and a breakout player or two away from have them competing in October.
So I simply think that, and this is not necessarily because I want to be on this side of the fence, but somebody's got to say something a little bit different here, and I'll be the one to fall on the sword. One, the only thing I got to rebuttal against Flax that you said is Byron Buxton is not only stealing, he stole more bases that he has in his entire career outside of 2017.
It's because
Okay,
he's
and he's
finally on the
actually
field
hold on,
consistently.
hold on,
It's
hold on,
time
hold
of
on, hold on.
opportunity.
Hold on, hold on. Let me finish here. Okay. And he, technically speaking, right now, from an overall standpoint, right, if he continues at this pace, is having arguably the best overall season of his career. You're right. Part of it is staying on the field. The point of that statement for me is that Buxton stating he wants to stay and still being that guy is great for them. The next thing that they need to do is they need to find out how to do the exact same thing with Royce Lewis. Okay. So the two biggest portions of their lineup, whether anybody likes that statement or not, and Lewis has to be healthy to do this, right? They did keep the two biggest portions of their lineup. I think that the only argument that the Twins had, which is what killed me, is Johan Duran getting moved made all the sense in the world. We understood that because of the reliever market, right? They got Eduardo Tate out of that deal. Tate looks like one of the better
Yeah.
overall prospects in all of baseball, and a guy who's going to really rise up boards over the next couple of years as the only 18-year-old they've had play at the high A level in the Twins organization, I believe, in 20 plus years, right? So the flip side for me, though, is the fire sale of everybody else does one thing and one thing only. I'm going to tell you what. Walker Jenkins, aka Captain America, is going to need to come up next year and be Captain America. Guys that we have really liked for a long time throughout that system
Luke
are
Keeschel?
just they're Luke Keeschel,
I think that's how you say his name.
the French Emperor of Walk
Yep.
is going to have to be himself, Edouard Julien, right? There is a level to where Mick Abel is going to have to be who they wanted Mick Abel to be, because the problem is you fire sold when you still had an opportunity to potentially do something in 2025. So the dagger here to me is actually not 2025. The dagger here to me is exactly what Jackson said about the Orioles. We're watching the Orioles retool and not rebuild, retool for the 2026 season, right? I don't believe that the guys the Twins got make me say they're retooling, and I like a couple of the guys that they kept. They're going to have to do a lot of work this offseason, right? And the biggest thing that scares me about everything that they did, right? They did not completely cut Correa out of their books,
No.
right? They hold that over year. And the Twins, though they have doled out some relatively large contracts, they're not the team that we know that's going to deal out all of this money. And if you have to take off $10 million a year from the big contract you want to go sign in the offseason, that could really derail you from an overall standpoint. All I'm getting at is the move that they made that I understand more than any is Johan Duran, because what you got for Johan Duran was honestly absurd for a reliever. We talk about relievers all the time. So I understand that move. Fire selling the rest of the roster was a very interesting move, and it felt like a level of cleaning house.
I mean, it would be
Yeah, I
nice if
agree.
next year. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I agree with the Durant trade. Like, I'm a Cardinals fan. The Cardinals sold their bullpen arms as they should have. This was the year to do that. But if the Cardinals would have turned around and traded Newtbar, Donovan, Burleson, and basically anyone with value, I would have felt a little bit differently about the deadline. It just seemed like the Twins weren't selling like expiring contracts. They were selling to sell everybody off. They were selling for value.
Yeah. Yeah, you sell Griffin Jacks, who's got another 2.5 years
Hold on.
of
Griffin
control.
Jacks got sold because Griffin Jacks decided he didn't want to be there because of the moves that they were making to
Well,
the
this is
credit.
true
Now,
too.
here's the thing. Again, and this is not. I apologize for cutting you off.
No.
They really did go out and try to restock this farm system. So again, if this doesn't put them in a spot where they have guys coming up to play high level baseball and start winning very quickly, right? This is going to, in 2 years, go down as one of the worst trade deadlines we've ever seen a team have and one of the worst sell offs that we have ever seen. All I'm getting at from the other side of the perspective is I don't think we can judge it to say it was awful. However, it doesn't make them not the biggest potential loser, if not the biggest overall loser of the 2025 deadline.
Well, and I think when it's all said and done, the one thing I do look at for them next year is you you hope because of what these guys have gone down with that it's not as bad as it could be. Pablo Lopez, David Festa, Joe Ryan, Simeon Woods Richardson, pretty solid top end of your
Mick
rotation.
Abel, let's throw him in there because he's
Right.
gonna be
I think
right.
I think
Fair
Mick
game.
Abel has already gotten a start in the big leagues. I think has the potential to be a very consistent 3 and keep you in ball games every 5 days. The bullpen's going to be the part that's tough for them, I think, next year, but bullpen arms are always available. You can always
That's it.
go buy them.
Yep.
And that's okay. I'm okay with that. You want to live in a world where you say, if we can build everything else and go buy some bullpen arms, then we're fine. I'm not sitting here saying they're not going to be a competitive team next year, right? But there is a world in which a lot of what they gave away and the impending sale that they've been talking about now for almost 12 months is making me feel like the likelihood that they do a whole lot this offseason is very low. And that's what I struggle with. A lot of these moves felt like, get some money off the books, get some players off the books that we feel like we might have to pay in the future. Let's make this as clean of an operation as we can for whoever's going to step in to be able to make their decisions. And I hate that. That doesn't feel like we're making baseball decisions. It feels like we're making business decisions. That was the only thing I really struggled with. And I don't want to keep belaboring the
that.
topic because
No, but I like that statement.
I do want to talk about one other thing that I know everybody who's listening, all 39 of you, we genuinely appreciate your presence. We want to talk about Roman Anthony because the Red Sox, John Henry, is more than willing to dole out some money to these young guys now. I like this, right? I mean, you start looking across the board at some of their contracts. I think I tweeted it the other day. It was, Garrett Crochet, Ceddanne Rafaela, Christian Campbell, now Roman Anthony. There's one more in there that I'm forgetting that he has already gone about extending and buying out arbitration years and moved on past arbitration to a couple more years. I love this move. It sets you in place with what your actual spend is in out years, and it allows you to understand how much you have available to go buy another player. I also love it because it sets in stone the idea for anyone who could potentially be a possible free agent or who is already there thinking that they want to get to free agency. Nobody else is going anywhere. So if you want to be that Lone Ranger, go for it. But that's not the game we play here. We'd love to have you stick around if you want to stick around. Not going to force you to, but everybody else is doing it because this seems like a pretty good place to be. In my mind, that's what I love the most about what they're doing. They're setting a precedent of culture, and setting that precedent of culture of how the front office will behave and provide for their players is really important in building a dynasty, in building a legacy, in building a team that will consistently compete at a high level.
Yeah, the guy you missed was Brian Bayo. Just so to give you
Yes.
the other guy, nice extension. The biggest thing that I look at here, and somebody was scared of it, which was interesting to me, is this is what I've told people all along is what I call the Braves model. That's all they're doing, right? This is a team mentality of exactly what you said of we're here to dole out money early and often. We're willing to do it. You're either on the train or you're not. We watched the flurry of extensions for the Braves over the last couple of years. I understand they're having a down year this year and people are questioning it, but injuries happen. And again, baseball is a fickle game. Years like this will happen and blips will happen. The big thing that I love on this, before I let Jackson speak his mind here, is it was very obvious to me that they took a look at the Jackson Merrill contract because they felt as if this contract had to be somewhat not similarly structured, but paid Roman Anthony a little bit more, right? And that's exactly what they did. Jackson Merrill's contract, which was over 9 years prior to the option, is worth $135 million with a AAV of $15 million. Roman Anthony is going to be 8 years, $130 million with an AAV of $16.25 million. I love this deal. It scales really well for Anthony. He's the type of guy who truly looks like he could be a number 2 hole best hitter in your lineup, table setter for a long time. We watched him adjust to the big league level at a much faster pace than people wanted to give him credit for. He does have a club option in 2034 that's worth $34 million. That is a huge, huge contract for a single year for anybody. And I love the fact that they put a great incentive in front of him. This contract does also have escalators that can make the contract worth over $200 million for Roman Anthony. So I love the deal. I'm a big fan of owners getting out in front of this type of thing and being willing to dole out the money to their homegrown talent. And I think we're going to see it more and more here throughout the years because players get security and teams get the guy.
So I'm just now really digging into this John Heyman tweet. Am I reading these last 2 lines correctly?
You are.
Yes, you are. I saw that.
That's
too.
Awesome.
That's
Awesome.
awesome. On the road.
Mhm.
So like if he wins Rookie of the Year this year, which
2031
is not happening.
No.
But if he were to somehow win Rookie of the Year this year, in 2031, he can invite anybody he wants to any road game he wants, and they're going to sit in a suite. What an
Love it.
absurd thing to put in there.
And then he automatically gets it 2032 through 2034, which is
Yeah,
awesome.
what is
But
that?
Jackson, give us your thoughts on Roman Anthony's contract here.
I loved the contract. The one thing I wanted to bring up with him is I could talk about his advanced metrics all day, but there's 2 I wanted to bring up. He has a hard hit rate of 57% this year. For those who don't know, hard hit rate, percentage of balls you're hitting 95 plus. 57% of the balls he's putting in play are hitting 95 miles an hour or harder. The other one, 19% chase rate, one of the lowest in baseball. You don't see young guys come up that often who are hitting the ball that hard, that consistently, and not chasing out of the zone. That projects so far into the future that even if he's not a 950 OPS MVP guy, this guy's going to hit the ball hard. He's going to stay in the zone, and that just means he goes to the future a lot. I love the deal for the Red Sox.
Yep, use the whole field. This couldn't fit better.
I love that.
There's no other. There's nothing in my opinion that is not positive about this. Watching a young 21-year-old kid get life-changing money, being willing to do it, wanting to stay with the organization, but the organization also being willing to take that risk. Because listen, contracts go good, bad, ugly. You never know what's going to happen in the future. But this is a trend that I would like to see continue in baseball. I agree with Jackson. He's advanced metric wise and production metric wise from what we've seen him coming throughout the minor leagues. This does look like an MVP talent, and quote unquote in a couple of years we might call it a discount, but Anthony's not going to look at it that way.
I love that the suite, I'm still stuck on this by the way, is ages 28 to 30. To me it's like in their mind they're like, yeah, I think around 28 to 30 he'll need a place for his own family to sit on the road. So we're gonna build that into his contract for 28 to 30. Like they're planning out this man's off the field life.
But if he wins Rookie of the Year, he has to get married a year earlier.
That's true, right? But likely you'd think he'd make some irrational decisions from the excitement. So that's probably what that is.
Seen it happen
Okay.
before. Wouldn't be the first
So
time.
before we wrap up, and we again thank everyone who's joined our live show out there, a reminder that if you want to listen to our podcast, if you enjoy the way we go about conversation here, it's very similarly structured, maybe a little more so. On the podcast every week, we drop a new episode every Tuesday, Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. We always appreciate your comments. We always appreciate your response to what we put out there. We don't like talking into a vacuum. If you disagree with us, let us know. We'll tell you why you're wrong. The other thing we have, first of all, this last weekend we had a great interview. We had Jackson on for 20 minutes talking about how he did the tarp at Bristol Motor Speedway
Helped
for the
with
Speedway
tarp.
Classic.
Wasn't all Jackson,
And-
believe it or not.
No, Jackson did it. But what's crazy about it is going into the weekend, I didn't know if Jackson was actually going to have to do anything. I kept thinking that he was like irrationally nervous, and then it downpoured. So good on you, Jackson, for being prepared and knowing that it was going to be happening. But it all ended up good. You did a good job of keeping your feet in front of you, keeping your head down, one foot in front of the other, stayed on your feet. So if you want to go listen to Jackson talk about what it was like to do it, how he got into doing it, what the process was to get, ready for that training, all that, go listen to the episode. It's a great episode. We got another episode for you guys coming on Tuesday, a phenomenal interview. If you are a fan of college baseball, you know the name, Jack DeLongchamp. I'm sure I said his last name incorrectly.
No, you did it right.
Did I do it right? Awesome.
Yeah.
But this man was kind enough to do a full hour with us. You guys are going to absolutely love the interview. He is electric. He brings the energy. He's a great person to have a conversation with. Go check out all his stuff on social media. Go check out all his stuff with 11.7, with Pencil Talk, with 643 Charts. He's doing a ton of great stuff, especially for the game of college baseball. He is one of the biggest reasons why it has grown even to the point it has. Big fan of his. We're really fortunate to have had him on. You guys will get that episode this coming Tuesday. But for now, thank you all for your time, boys. Anything you want to leave them with?
Yeah, the biggest thing I'd like to leave all of you with is Drew Gilbert got the call today. So make sure you take a moment to watch a San Francisco Giants
Yes,
game
he
and
did.
see what
Go
the
Vols.
former Tennessee Vol has in store for you.
Last thing I want to leave it with, it's almost JJ Weather whole time in St. Louis. I can
It's
smell
almost.
him coming. It's almost time. I can smell him coming.
I said this the other day. It's almost that time of year where everyone who's not in the race starts bringing up a bunch of prospects.
Quinn Matthews
it's
and
the
JJ
best-
Weatherhold.
It is the best time of year. Quinn Matthews, I love Quinn Matthews, but Quinn Matthews is going to come up and walk the world in the big leagues.
Hey, his past like 5 outings, he has been walking people. Last night, he threw first 56 pitches, 43 strikes.
Wow. Also, I just want the world to know, totally separate topic. Ryan Mountcastle, first at bat, back off the IL for like a very long IL stint, went dead center off JT Ginn. Adley also hit a home run tonight, his first one since coming back off the IL. I tweeted this when Jackson put out his tweet of who was starting today. His highlighted starts, JT Ginn versus Tomoyuki Sagano. What did I say? That's a lot of fly balls. Wish they were playing in the sack. They're not. They're playing at Camden Yards, also a good place to hit fly balls. 2 of them, in fact, have left the yard. So that's all I got. I appreciate everybody joining us tonight. For now, we will see you later.